Today on Queen Me, I am joined by one of the most impactful leaders in women's college basketball, someone who has not only built a winning program, but completely redefined what's possible within it. Coach David Saur is the head coach of women's basketball at Chatham University, where he has transformed the program into one of the most successful in the President's Athletic Conference. Since taking over in 2018, he has led the Cougars to historic success, including a conference championship, an NCAA tournament appearance, and multiple record-breaking seasons, something that the program had never achieved in its 40-year history prior to his arrival. Beyond the wins, Coach is known for building systems, developing talent, and mentoring players at every level from Division III to the WNBA pipeline. Today, we're talking about leadership, building culture, player development, career pathways in sports, and what it really takes to sustain excellence over time. Take a listen. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to take the time to talk to you.
Really excited. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, so it's funny when we had first connected, I had known a little bit about Chatham's women's basketball program and things, but what's fascinating to me is that when you took over, you got the program itself hadn't had a winning season,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Never in the history. Correct.
So when you were coming in, can you just take me back to that point? Like
Mhm.
what did you maybe see that other people missed, or what were your experiences when you first came to Chatham? How did you know that maybe you could change that?
Yeah. So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally, and went to college at Teal College in kind of outside of Erie, which is in Chatham's conference, President's Athletic Conference. And back then, um, Chatham was an all women's school. And so athletically, on the women's side, they obviously competed in the PAC, and I was coaching at that time on both men and women's side with women's basketball, men's basketball at Teal. So we had come down here to Chatham at least once when I was junior, senior in college, finishing up there. And the campus was gorgeous. I think the building we're in, the Athletic and Fitness Center, was relatively brand new at that point. Um, but was blown away by just the campus in general. And that always stuck with me. So then you fast forward, I don't want to age myself, but you fast forward over a decade at least, and was at the Division I level. It spent almost 8 years at the D1 level at a few stops, and I was definitely ready to be a head coach, put down some roots somewhere. I had moved a number of times at the D1 level for jobs across the country. And the Chatham job had come open. I had obviously still friends in the PAC President's Athletic Conference that we were in, that Chatham is in, including at that time one of the commissioners of the conference, who was, you go through your career connections. He was the sports information director, assistant AD at Teal when I was a freshman, sophomore, hired me for my first student work job, and my brother and I as freshmen. So we had a good relationship. The job opened. He had texted me just, hey, you should really look at this. They've hired a new athletic director. They're really putting an emphasis on athletics. They've gone co-ed a couple years ago. I think it could be a really good opportunity. And then kind of snowballed from there. Just people that I knew well, that knew of the school, knew of the AD, and obviously got a chance to come interview and meet with everybody, and was again blown away with campus, the proximity to everything in the city, being in Shady Side, and the majors here, the academics are really good, and I think that's obviously a huge component when you look at a really good job athletically, the academic piece, and then the chemistry or connectivity between your athletic director, the president, board of trustees. That was all aligning and starting to align in a really good way. So I think for me, yeah, you had to do a little forecasting on it and putting all those things together. I'm like, this could be a really, really good kind of sleeping giant opportunity. And I give all the credit to our athletic director and board and administration here that they've really put a lot into our program, specifically women's basketball, and have allowed it to become what it is now.
Mm, I love it. I love it. And because of
of all of that and your leadership and success, it's been one of the most successful programs in the conference. So,
Mhm.
can you walk us through maybe some of the initial moves that you made that helped change the trajectory? Like when you come in as a coach, like what were the things that you had to look at, take away? What did that look like?
Yeah, I just think you had to really, they wanted to go from, and maybe lack of a better term, basketball, was kind of just truly a complete secondary extracurricular activity. And they were attempting to change athletics as a whole, but obviously my piece, women's basketball, to be a prominent, ultra competitive program within the conference and the hope to be nationally at some point. So you had to really start from the ground up from an infrastructure standpoint. And for me, that was hiring a good staff to really set that example and tone. Obviously, me coming from the Division I level, it kind of added some of that to the program and gave it a little different feel than a lot of programs at our level. But I made a point to hire a young lady named Marlena Tremba. She's the all-time leading scorer, three-point shooter at William and Mary College in Virginia. She had just graduated from there. We hired her as a graduate assistant, full-time assistant coach here. But she had a great pedigree, was a great player, came from a really big-time basketball culture in the DC, Maryland area, played at one of the elite high schools in Northern Virginia. So she came with a reputation as well, young coach, but you really started to lay the groundwork of this is a serious program and you could lay the culture then. And that's the biggest thing, your staff all being on the same page. We could start building the culture from the ground up, from the way we do things to the way we recruit, all of the above. She was with us for 2 years, got her master's, and she's now the associate head coach at the Naval Academy Division I program. Went from here to there. She's been there since she left, so about 6 years, and she'll be a head coach Division I level, I'm assuming, at some point here soon. So that was the biggest key. And then kind of laying the ground. We had some really good upperclassmen that wanted to win, that had talent, and that's huge. I mean, you got to have talent, and they did. Thankfully, they had the desire to win, and I think really bought in early, which set the groundwork for the years to come. And two of those upperclassmen are now my assistant coaches and been coaching here on about 5 years. So it just shows kind of the buy-in that was given then, and they've stuck with it and continued that culture through now year 8 heading into year 9. So I think it's about the people first. I think it's your staff, and then you kind of lay that groundwork with your leadership within the team, and that grows organically through the time there. But that was the biggest thing, the people.
I love it. Yeah, surrounding yourself with all the great people. And I know we'll get into this a little bit later, but part of that, relationship with working in sports
Mm-hmm.
is, the people that you meet along the way, the people that you bring in and those relationships. I'm curious from your perspective as well, because you've taught and coached, Division I, two, three.
Mm-hmm.
They're all very different experiences. So did you have to maybe unlearn or relearn or shift things when you became the head coach at Chatham? Or did the other, just being able to coach all of the different divisions, just gave you enough experience to just run and pull them all together?
It was definitely a readjustment coming back to the Division III level, and not in a bad way, but I think more um, just the daily patterns of like your students' schedules and the time commitments. I think that's the biggest, besides the tangible size and speed of athletes as you go across divisions. But I think the other biggest one is the time commitment, not by their choosing, but just the rules of the sport. Division I, you're starting practice in June and you go through the end of March almost. And then Division II, little bit tighter, but you're starting official practice in September and you go through the end of March. Division three, we don't start official practice until very early October, and we go to the very end of February, first week of March. So there were some different structural things there, but um, I do think it helps, and I think our athletic director makes a point of this with a lot of the hires that he has made here, coach wise, that I do think there is a nice, if you have to have Division three experience because I think it's its own animal, and you want to have some of that when you hire head coaches. But I do think having experience at different levels and different ways to do things and the creativity you have to have in all areas, whether it's recruiting or team dynamics or strategy. It's nice to have that higher level experience because I do think it just sets a different tone when you walk in the door day to day. But it was an adjustment. I think my eye in recruiting, you had to adjust it some and get acquainted to what works at our level and not shooting too high and recruiting all Division One players because well, generally they're not coming to Division three, so that adjustment was there. But the biggest one was just kind of getting reacquainted with the flow of the schedule and how all those things operate.
Absolutely. All of that balance. And this goes great into what I think a lot of people are curious about. And we've seen a big increase in it, right? A lot of young people are really interested and passionate about working in sports. Maybe
Mhm.
they don't quite understand the path, all of the different careers that can be a part of it. So, can you maybe take us back to the very early stages of your career? Maybe what happened behind the scenes, or did you always know that you wanted to be a coach? Like, what did all that look like for you?
Yeah, to be really blunt, school wasn't my favorite thing in the world. I did just enough to get by.
Hmm.
I think I originally maybe thought coming out of high school, prep school, I was going to major in physical education, be a gym teacher, coach high school, and live happily ever after. And, dreams of playing professional basketball someday we're always in there too. But, once I got to college, I did kind of realize really early on, A, I still didn't love school. B, um, my passion for basketball and the fire really never stopped burning. And the reality, and thankfully, I had really good parents and influences and coaches that, you're not going to play professionally one day. I don't care how hard you work, it's just not in the cards. So coaching was one. And then I did have great influences growing up being from Baltimore. It's a basketball city. The AAU program, summer program I played for in the heart of Baltimore City. If you ever seen HBO, The Wire, a lot of it was
Yeah.
filmed around my rec center, prep school, rec center, AAU programs, gym area, that neighborhood. Um, we had a lot of big time players. There were a lot of guys that played in the NBA that came through. So I got a really first chance to kind of see, as even if as a young teen, the college recruiting landscape and the ins and outs of how that worked. And I was fascinated beyond belief and loved that whole process and getting to see how that worked and what you could do with basketball even outside of playing, how it could still pay your bills and it could be a career. So I really knew that early. Then when I got to college, took advantage of it, played my freshman year, and then got into coaching right away. I found that was going to be maybe a path for me to separate myself from a resume experience standpoint when I graduated, that I'm not the typical 4-year college player that has no coaching experience and is looking for a job. I was able to get that at a small school. I was able to get hands-on experience in every aspect, recruiting, coaching, player development, for 3 years coaching the men and the women at Teal, which then set the table for graduating and finding a full-time position after. Um, Not to go too deep into that, but even that was a process. And, you're still coming from a small school, not traditionally a basketball powerhouse by any means. So just like, I think a lot of stories that lead to opportunities, a lot of no's. I probably was told no 5,000 times by every program across the country that we didn't have a spot for you here for an opportunity. Ended up with a really good opportunity, one on the men's side, one on the women's side. Men's side at Florida State as a graduate assistant would have been like one of four GAs for their program. Really good opportunity. And then California PA women's basketball, who's a powerhouse Division II women's program in our region, had a full-time assistant spot. They would still pay for my master's, but I would have a much bigger coaching role right away. Jumped at that opportunity, and that kind of what springboarded everything. But I was told no 5,000. I was told yes twice. So, as you know, it only takes one. So,
Absolutely. And
mhm.
those no's, I know they sting in the moment, but they bring you so much closer to, where you want to be. And I love what you said. I mean, there's so many opportunities to work in sports beyond just playing.
Yes.
It was so interesting. I was talking with a parent the other day, and they were like, I have to tell my child that, they got into a sport, they were interested in it later, and they think that they might play professionally, and that's not going to be in the cards for whatever reasons, but they can
Hmm.
still really fuel their passion, and there's other
Yes.
ways and other ways to be engaged. So I love that.
Yeah.
And this sort of side, gets us into a really great next sort of topic, which gets into this leadership and this culture, because you develop so many players who have gone to, highest levels that have gone into coaching, right? All of these things. Let's sort of stick with the athlete side of things for a minute. So,
Hmm.
from your perspective, what maybe separates athletes who, maybe make that leap into getting into the professional side of sports compared to those who don't?
And in terms of playing, right? You're saying going professional as a player.
Yes.
Um, I think number one, kind of goes without saying, but we're blessed with some amazing genes from their family lineage. I
Yes.
think that's a huge component, number one. But aside from that, because there are thousands, if not millions, that are blessed with great genes, no question. Um, I think it's the burning desire to be great and the relentless pursuit of that, the intangible qualities of refusing to be told no, even when maybe people you trust are telling you no, and there's a blinding passion and desire to reach that full potential no matter what. I think that's the biggest quality, um, because I think, as I told you, the journey with mine from a coaching perspective, being told no that many times and still pursuing. And there's even a million no's after that with other opportunities. So I think having that blind desire, and I think, it's almost, and I'm not going to diagnose anybody, but I do think there's maybe an OCD quality to it of just obsessive over the game. And I remember, I haven't been formally diagnosed, but I do remember even as a middle schooler and like just it's a little over the top, excessive with the work and the, no days off mentality and wanting to be really, really good and perfect and obsess over it. And I think the only way, truly, I know it might sound harsh and some people are like, you know, man, that's a lot. But to be truly great at something, which is what professional athletes are at any level, any sport, um, you have to obsess. You have to be obsessed with it. And that for me is the separator because I know it's easy for me to say, but that's the rarest quality, I think. And I think that's what, if you really boiled it down, I think the ones that make it are the ones that refuse to be told no and just obsess over what they do. And it's truly their passion every single day.
And that's so similar to chess. I mean, if you wanted to be
Hmm.
competitive, I mean, you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
just you can be talented at it, but you have to just keep grinding at it every day, and that's your focus, right? And that's what separates so many people from
Yes.
from it. So, absolutely, I completely agree. And I'm curious too, like, are there athletes that you see that have this great leadership too in the locker room, right? Because
Mhm.
you've had as a coach, you're bringing on great leadership, right?
Hmm.
But how does that evolve maybe to the athletes? What does it look like when the athletes have great leadership? Does that help them become even better when they play?
Oh yeah, I think that's a separator. I think no question. I think leadership is definitely a component when you're getting to the nitty gritty of making it or not at the highest levels. Because you take the subset of professional level talent and work ethic and all those things, you take that group, there's still a group that doesn't make it out of them. And I think one of the major intangibles that is a separator amongst the elite is your ability to be a leader. And I think the other piece, accept your role
Mm,
within that sport and within the team. I think that's another major separator. And I think those go together. Um, but leadership's a big one. I mean, there's countless examples of, I use a guy, there's a guy, TJ McConnell from the Pittsburgh area. I think he started at Duquesne, went to Arizona. He's now been in the NBA for a bunch of years, second contract, making a lot of money.
mhm.
But he's barely a 6 foot, 6'1" average athlete. I'll say above average athlete. I'll even give him that. Um, but nothing flashy, nothing that you would just watch him play a pickup game and be like, that's a surefire, $50 million NBA player over his career. But he's an elite player. But when you get to the top of the top, he's leadership qualities, his ego, he can put it to the
Mhm.
side and buy into a role, which separates him amongst, like, use an example of a guy named Sebastian Telfair, number one player in his class coming out of high school, front of every magazine, ESPN, Jay-Z, better player, but never made it because
Mhm.
leadership qualities maybe off and didn't accept his role and place in the sport at the highest level. So TJ makes it, Sebastian doesn't. So yes, I think leadership absolutely is a separator at the highest levels.
Absolutely. I remember when Teacher McConnell played, but
Mhm.
my family was a huge Duquesne, even though I went to Pitt and I
Yes.
joke that,
You'd still root for Duquesne.
I
Yeah.
still root for Duquesne. And I
Yeah.
remember that, right? And you could see that initially on the court,
Yes.
right? Just his interest
Yes.
and it's so cool to see like just that McConnell family, like, with Megan and everything, just sort of
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love it. When you're recruiting,
Hmm.
do you find that you're looking as well at their role in leadership, how they interact? Like what are some things when you're, you know, evaluating players maybe beyond just like their talent? Is there anything that you look for or that you think would be a good fit for the program?
It's a great question. Um, I have found that recruiting players that come from winning cultures, winning programs, whether it be high school or AAU, is directly correlates to some success at the college level. And why I do that, I think, and you can't always do it, but I think when you can do that, um, because generally speaking, players that are not, when they come from those programs, when they're not the best player on their team, they're more willing to buy into the role that they're going to have at the college level because 95% of college players are going to be a role player, a supplementary player of some kind. You only have one, maybe one and a half star go to, get the ball every time down the court players. And I think the players that have the hardest time sometimes adjusting, coming from the smaller school environment, small AAU team, they are the best player in that small pond. And now they go to college and they have to play a role as opposed to being the star player. That's an adjustment. That's a big mental adjustment to make. So I found that I think that's a big one that I look for, um, players that have elite talent but have played a role through their journey in the sport. And I think that tends to lead to, role acceptance, obviously, but also more conducive to leadership and they're more, I don't know, they understand and emphasize, I'm gonna use this word wrong, empathy
Mm.
for their teammates, um, better and can, accept leadership roles and those things. So I think that's the biggest one for me.
I love it. I love it. That's so true. And it's all of those skills I think are so important when we look holistically at, at the players, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
just you can have that talent, but all these other skills that you're building that fit in so well. And that aligns too with like just broadly when you're breaking into the industry, when you have a career in sports, whether or not you are playing, but as you're building your skill sets and things,
Mhm.
based on all your experience, are there any skills, maybe underrated skills that help with success in sports careers that people don't talk about? We get so many questions from young leaders where they're like, I want to have this career in sports, but I maybe have this skill or this skill. I don't necessarily see that. I want to get into operations. I don't know how to get started. Like, what are maybe people getting wrong, or what don't we talk about enough with this?
Yeah, I think, man, it almost goes back to no matter what role you're looking for, or what opportunity you want, or what avenue in sports you want to go, marketing, back behind the scenes, coaching, whatever. Um, that back to that deal about not being afraid to be told
Mm,
no. And I think what also goes in line with that, not being afraid to put yourself out there in a setting of contacting somebody that's in the industry that's doing what you want to do and just asking for 5 minutes to network and have a conversation and learn and grow and build your network.
mhm,
I don't think all networking and relationship building for as far as people, is to maximize your career can happen just organically. I think you
mhm,
have to push the envelope a little bit. You can't be afraid to somebody to no respond you in a DM or an email, or maybe you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and you drop that name in a text message. You found their phone number. Don't be afraid to be a little bit aggressive. Now, there's obviously layers to that and what have you, but and there's tactful ways to do it. But I do think putting yourself out there is a big piece. I think everybody now, especially in today's generation, or young college students and lower, it's all text. It's all just being on the phone and staying in your little bubble. Get out there and have those conversations. Go meet. Like the example, like with coaching, you want to get into it, and there's a big AAU tournament with thousands of college coaches coming to some event here in Pittsburgh. Find a way to pay the $50 to get in, and just go watch games, stand on a court, communicate with somebody, try to help somebody get some information that you overhear them talking about. Just be a little aggressive. Like, I think you have to go, again, back to the root, fight for what you
mhm.
want. But I think networking's a big one. And I think that, even if you're an introvert and shy, like, you got to put yourself out there. I mean, that's the only way I think in 90% of industries you're going to really make it where you want to make it, is to push that envelope a little bit.
Absolutely. And taking advantage of, you're so right. I mean, where we are now, so many people, I mean, you have LinkedIn on your phone, you can easily find somebody's email address
Yes.
and just reach out. I mean, the worst thing that they can do is not respond or say no. And the
Yeah.
odds are I think that people will want to have a conversation. They'll want to help. They'll want to just say, yeah, if you have a couple minutes, like I'd love to connect and make it
I'll,
easy,
I'll
right?
use the example from my career. I remember vividly where I was standing on my phone on Teal's campus,
Mhm.
having the first conversation with this guy. And it all started. So he was a guy named David Atkins. He's one of the premier basketball assistant coaches in the country. At that time, he was at the University of Maryland women's program, going to the Final Four. He started his career in the DC area, coaching highest level of high school basketball, coaching NBA players like Kevin Durant and all different guys. But I had a tangible third hand connection through a teammate of mine in AAU basketball that was a big time Baltimore player, that this guy, David, tried to recruit to go to a DC private school back in the day. So I
Mhm.
used that connection to just send him a text. I'm getting into coaching. I'm going to be on the women's side. I'd love to just connect. We're from the same area, sort of. Do you have 10 minutes for me to pick your brain? And
Oh,
that's turned into a 15 plus year close relationship. He's
mm,
now an assistant with the Dallas Wings in the WNBA. He was in the NBA as an assistant for a decade.
mm,
But that also branched off into other relationships I created through the one cold calling him. And
mm,
some of my best friends and mentors in basketball have come from that one phone call to him as a senior in college in the middle of January with a winter coat on, standing outside, trying to take the call before I had to go to class, turned into a lot of opportunities created from that.
well, I love it. You just never know what's going to happen. And
Yes.
of course, like if, yeah, I'm sure so many people email you all the time and are like, can I, have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with you, pick your brain. It's just that initial reach out. And I know it's like there's this moment of anxiety before you're going to talk to that person,
Yeah.
but they have these conversations all the time and they want to connect and talk. So
And
I,
the more you
I
do
love
it, the more you'll be comfortable with it. And it
it.
just becomes part of who you are. So, yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. And it really goes in well for this last question, which is my favorite question. What does it mean to unleash your inner queen, especially when it comes to leadership, confidence, or maybe stepping into your roles on and off the court?
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I think you have to be you in every
Mhm.
room you're in, no matter what you think the expectation is, what it looks like. Because you are enough. Who you are is enough. All your quirks and your strengths, your weaknesses, all the above, there's a place for you in the rooms you want to be in.
Mm,
And I think you have to, it takes time to develop that confidence in yourself, but I think there's no other way to do it. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to push you forward than fitting into any kind of cookie cutter mold or whatever the industry status is. And this is how you have to be. I think you have to be yourself every single day of the week. And that's, I think that's how you truly unleash that inner queen.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. Thank you so much for taking the time and just sharing all of your insight and wisdom into, not just I think building a winning and talented team, but really just a lasting culture. So thank you so much.
absolutely. This is great. And your impact on our program in school and with what you do, just one reach out that you did with us, and we were able to connect. And I think you've pushed the envelope with chess. I know on our campus, it's now like a common theme to see people
Love
walk
it.
in the athletic facility playing in the common area there, and our team enjoys it. It's still talked about. We talk about it on recruiting visits when people come to campus. Um, but thank you for what you do. And I think we're all in this thing together. So, but I appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. I always love to hear when there's excitement around chess, and I think even just one time you play and then you reach someone else and you just keep at it. So I love
Mhm.
it. I love it, and I appreciate all that you do. And for all of those listening, please, I mean, can they reach out to you? Can they connect?
100%. Emails online, cell phone number, I think's even online there, social media, Twitter, DM, at me, whatever you want. But yeah, absolutely anytime.
I love it. I love it. And truly, whether you're, an athlete or a coach or you're building something, there's always something here for all of us. And if you're interested in a career in sports or to continue on that path, this is just a great example of that. It's built over time, leadership, discipline, belief. And as always, please subscribe, share, and leave a review because every time you do, you help another leader step into their power and unleash their inner queen. So thank you so much.
Thank you.